G'day YouTube, Warbles on a lot here with, well, it's going to be a mad scientist video because I want to talk about battery resuscitation and storing electricity in a pyramid. And those of you who've been paying close attention to the background in my yard will perhaps have noticed that the batteries arrayed underneath the Martian fighting machine, or the SunFoil Mk-1, have changed, and we've now grown a new line of reject batteries. All four of these batteries failed their individual stress test, where they were asked to power the inverter to produce 240 volts to feed the electric water pump on the swimming pool filter. And that's, well, a maximum 6.5 amp load on the inverter. Well, a 6.5 amp DC load that the inverter puts on the battery, shall we say. One advantage of keeping your electricity in a pyramid is not only do you not have to build a great big cube or a rectangular prism large enough to walk into with a triangular prism on the roof to keep the rain off, but you can open any side of the pyramid, sometimes three at once, in order to get to your electricity stored in the batteries, neatly lined up. Now this has just spent a year underneath the SunFoil Mk-1 just being trickle charged after it had spent probably 2 years in the pyramid, and it's now been replaced by that Century 86 over there. This pair of Century N70ZZHs have been in the pyramid for 2 years, and they both passed the stress test. And here we have the black bank of Century deep cycles and the red bank, so named because I used jumper leads, and I used the red lead on the jumper leads to connect one pair of them and the black lead to connect the other pair of them. Each 12 volt set of these actually ran the water pump better than the entire pyramid full of batteries before I decided to stress test things did. So the worst four batteries have come out of the pyramid. That fifth little one over there is a different thing entirely. It's a calcium battery, appropriate for the new fast charge or smart charge alternators that I'm going to have a bit of a play with later on. But first I'm going to try and rescue this Century 86 because it literally died in front of me during the test. I'll show you that in a graph. There's a saying that if you can't measure it, you can't manage it, so I tend to write stuff down so I don't forget it. Now, I started this battery resuscitation, what's that, 22nd of the 9th, 21st of the 9th, and I recorded everything that went on, and after a week I bothered to have a look at the specific gravity of the electrolyte in the cells, and I stress tested the red bank and the black bank individually against the swimming pool. The pyramid batteries were getting sicker and sicker, but I sort of put up with it until the 9th of October, and that's when I put the 6 volt deep cycle units into the pyramid. Now here's the pyramid's bulk evaluation from the 23rd of September, and it doesn't look too bad initially. However, after 25 minutes we're down to 11.5 volts and 4.6 amps, which is not much good. So I stress tested each individual battery. That one failed. That's one that passed. That's another one that passed. That's the failure. That's a complete total failure. And there's another complete total failure. And then I ran a check on the one that's been under the Mk-1 SunFoil for a year, and it passed. So not many people can get their head around a big swag of figures like that. And that's probably why they invented coloured highlight pens, so that you can tell your graphs apart. The black line and the black figures in amps are the entire pyramid the first time I gave it a check ride, and as you can see we've dropped down below 12 volts. The solid red line and the dotted black line are the red and black pairs of deep cycle batteries. The blue line there, that's the Century 86, which is currently underneath the Mk-1, and we'll see what we can do about bringing it back up to par. As I said, it literally failed in front of me, and turned out that it took 3.5 litres of new clean water to get it going again. Here are the three that just completely, totally failed. That's the black sealed unit, and those are the two gel cells. Those gel cells had done 5 years in the pyramid. This one had only done 1 year in the pyramid. So it's a bit of a variable feast as to what you get. But the yellow and the green highlighter and the green unhighlighted, those are the 12 volt X-Auto batteries, which are currently in the pyramid, ganged up with the 225 amp hour rated Century deep cycle batteries. So I've got about 700 amp hours worth of manufactured storage in there. And if the batteries are functional at about 80%, which they seem to be, that gives me roughly the equivalent of 500 amp hours worth of manufactured storage that's working. So I could do a 50 amp hour per day cycle if I really wanted to push it. But if I was to suck 50 amp hours out of the batteries, which is about a horsepower worth of electricity, I would then have to burn petrol to make it up to the batteries, because under more or less perfect conditions, 38.2 amp hours is about the best I've ever seen out of that, and that's the equivalent of 3/4 of a horsepower hour worth of electricity going into the battery. Or should I say the bank of batteries? It's technically a battery is any time you're using more than one cell, so yeah, there is a battery of cells in the pyramid. And because pyramids are traditionally lined up with the Earth's magnetic field, I thought it was probably, well, it was coherent to set this one up aligned with the planet's magnetic field. And that means that when the batteries go in, you can set the batteries up so that their plates, the lead plates dipped in the acid bath, they're also aligned with the planet's magnetic field. And purely serendipitously, I discovered that because it looks neater when the batteries outside the pyramid are also aligned with the edges of the pyramid, you don't have to put a battery into a pyramid in order to get a bit of benefit from lining the plates up with the geomagnetic field. It doesn't make much difference, but the magnetic field induces a microcurrent, putting electrons onto the west face of the plates and pulling them off the east face of the plates, so the battery's voltage stays the same, but the fact that there is a current flow prevents sulphation from occurring, so it stops the battery from getting any worse when you've got the thing outside in the elements. And inside the pyramid, well, it kind of appears that the pyramid power, however it works, whatever it is, seems to collect and magnify the effect. Let's face it, pyramids have been used for storage for thousands of years. Various European armies made milk containers out of pyramids because it stopped the milk from going rotten. I couldn't see any reason why not to try storing the electricity in a pyramid, and it turned out to have a couple of benefits, so I still do it. Anybody wants to laugh at that, you're welcome to laugh, but you know, I'm the bloke who gets batteries on the way to the dump, resuscitates them by putting them in alignment with the planet's magnetic field, and then keeps them in service for years after they would otherwise have been melted down, because I keep them in a pyramid lined up with the planet's geomagnetic field. Fool on the hill, eh? Genuine fair dinkum mad scientist. But at least I know what I'm talking about. So it might be weird, but it isn't bullshit. I can prove what works. Ciao.